Alright, we're going to go ahead and switch out the blades on this dewalt D26676 hand planer. There's a couple parts and pieces that are going to be in the cabinet. There's this wrench that comes with the machine. There is a, this is actually for sharpening the blades. There's this gauge here. This gauge is really important for getting the blade lined up. This is the old blade. You can see it's all dinged up. Someone used it as a file apparently for some metal. So we're going to get this thing swapped out. I've already switched out the other side. It's nice and sharp with this side switched out. These two I've loosened. This middle bolt is really tight. So the easiest way to do that is to take a crescent wrench, adjust it so it slips on there kind of as a cheater bar. I don't know how well you can see this, but I'm going to pull down, push down on this, make sure it's firmly seated. And I'm just going to twist on it a little bit until I feel it give way. Go ahead and spin it off the rest of the way. I'm going to set it on its side. This is the fast forward part of the video. I'm keeping that sound effect though.
Okay.
Now, since this is a spinning device, we want to make sure all this stuff gets cleaned so that the weight is equal. So all I do is I just take my knife on the back side and clean these bolts. Just get all the dust and junk that's built up on them over the years. I'm not going to do it to all of them for sake of time. There's a blade clamp. This blade clamp comes off. After the blade clamp comes off, the blade is actually loose. And there's a guide on the back side of here that's attached with 2 screws. And the way we adjust this, I'm going to go ahead and fully take it off this blade so I can put it on the new one. And I will show you what we do there. There's just 2 Phillips screws. Those come completely out. In the back side of this, there's going to be some buildup in it. So that's nice and clean. This is the old blade. I'm going to set it aside. The new blades are a 3 1/4 inch. This is the Makita. That's the replacement, but it's compatible with this machine. Make sure that it's compatible. On the back somewhere it said it was compatible, and I know it is because I looked it up. So we'll pull out the fresh blade. Be careful with it. It is, in fact, razor sharp. Take your blade, put it in the gauge. It doesn't matter which side. It's reversible. Get it centered up. We're going to take this and lay it on there. Start our screws in the new blade. Maybe. Once the screws are started, hopefully your breathing isn't too heavy, Jordan. I shot a video one time and the guy holding the camera, you could just hear his breath constantly, so it was fun. Alright, so you want to get this thing tight, and right here there's going to be 2 little stops. There are 2 little bumps on this gauge. Make sure that this alignment clip is fully pressed against these bumps and the blade is fully tight in the front. So everything is pushed forward as hard as you can. And I cheat just a little bit to make sure that when these screws go in here, it holds tight. And I take this thing and I put a little clamp pressure on it, holding everything down. and I clamp it, and you can actually hold it up at the light and look through the back side to make sure all that's tight. So you can look around and make sure everything is nice and tight before you tighten it up. Just snug these screws. You don't have to crank them too hard because they're not really what holds the blade. You want them tight enough that the alignment clip doesn't move. Go ahead and put it back in the gauge and then hold it up to the light. Make sure that it's touching everywhere. That looks really good. Okay, so now that this is aligned, the bolts are actually going to be what holds this thing in place. There's a slot on this wheel. I can't remember the term, but anyways, this cutter bed. There's a slot on the back side of it. That's where this gauge goes. These two little pieces. Be very careful with this. You don't want to drop it. It will chip it and ding it. And that goes in there. It still slides but doesn't move. Before I tighten this down too much, I'm going to take my clip on the back side. You can see how dirty that is. We want to get all that sawdust out of there so that as it spins, it doesn't wobble or shake. Grew up in the country, so if you got a bunch of mud inside your rims on your truck, you'd have a nasty wobble down the road. Same concept. That was a... almost got Jordan to laugh. Okay, just start the bolts. I haven't cleaned them yet, so I will clean them and fully tighten them up when I'm done with this video. Start all three. You're going to spin these down where they're just snug. I'm just going to snug up the outside two for right now. Well, looks like I got to spin them all the way down so that it'll spin. Okay, like I said, just barely snug. Clean off both decks really well. Make sure they're nice and clean. Don't slit your finger on this thing because it is sharp. And right over here on the edge, you can roll this back and forth. What I'm going to do is I'm going to eyeball down this plane, and I'm just going to catch the edge of these blades with my eyeball and make sure that this is perfectly level with this. These need to be on the exact same line. And so I'll check it real quick. And it does indeed look fantastic. So that's all set up. I can go ahead and snug these down fully. Once these are fully snugged and everything's tight, you can go through and clean the machine, blow it all off. We got to get some paint. Someone thought this was a paint roller, so we'll get some paint off of it. And that is how you officially change the blades on this hand planer. Good to go.